Hello and welcome to the Bivouac Stories podcast. I have here with me Marc and Jamie from the Lightweight Adventurers channel, and they've been a great inspiration to me in the past, and it's a pleasure to have them on. And hopefully, they will be able to inspire you as well. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for having us. Yeah, it feels really good to be on somebody else's podcast. I was just saying to Dalibor, we run our own podcast, but it's nice to be a guest because it takes away the pressure of actually hosting it a little bit. So you must be feeling the pressure
Yeah,
a little bit.
definitely. It certainly feels like because you kind of spoke to us or spoke to me through your videos. I already know you a little bit. You don't know me almost at all, otherwise, other than what I told you just now. So it's definitely unbalanced, but hopefully when we're done, we will know each other a little bit better.
Absolutely. That's one thing that's probably took us the longest to get used to was when we meet people that they've seen us through the channel. We've been to a few festivals over the last couple of years, and it's probably the lowest level of fame, I suppose. But we've had people come up and they say, "Oh, I feel like I know you," but obviously from our side, we're just two regular guys that kind of go out, enjoy ourselves, and then just throw it at the internet basically, and let everybody else into our weird little world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter
Too
how long
regular,
that
but
goes. Sorry, the delay.
gone.
It
Gone.
doesn't matter how long that goes on for. We went to a festival and somebody was so nervous to come across and speak with us. He had to have a beer, and then his wife encouraged him to come along and have a selfie. And it was a lovely moment. We had the picture, and like a really, really honest, down to earth guy. And when he went away, I said, Jamie, did that really just happen? Because we're two middle aged blokes who happen to point a camera at ourselves. And now with this poor bloke was nervous to come along and have his picture taken with us, which was an incredible compliment and also a funny dynamic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, I remember that. That's what I was just thinking of. And we also had another incident where you might have seen a guy called Ben King. If you've been to CRFs, King on the Road,
I
he's
think so.
definitely
Yeah,
got.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's a good friend of ours now, but the first time we met him, he was just getting off the stage at ABR, which is a big festival in the UK. And as he got off the stage, he kind of walked up to us, and we were a bit nervous about meeting him because we'd seen all of his videos and he had loads more followers than us. But then he walked up and he went, "Oh my God, it's you guys. You're like my heroes." And we were like, "What's going on here? This is so weird."
It's like the Matrix, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we don't take it for granted, but I don't think we'll ever get used to it. But it's definitely strange people knowing us and us not knowing them yet.
Yeah.
So two regular but very kind-hearted and friendly guys. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, about your normal life. What do you do? Do you have families?
Yeah, well, we've got our own individual stories, obviously, but Jamie and I share a lot of commonalities in that we were both in the military. So little did we know, we've only known each other since 2016, coming up for 8 years now in the April. But we actually joined the military roughly the same year, 97. We both went through the RAF college roughly the same year, 2009, 10. And then we both happened to become teachers at well, exactly the same date, because that's how we met. So it was funny that we shared this entire career from when we were 17. Well, I was certainly 17. I think you might have been slightly older, Jamie, but right through to, well, the current day, running almost parallel lives, in the Royal Air Force. But so a really conjoined but very separate story. But aside from that, I'm from
Yeah.
East Anglia, the east side of the UK. I'm married, no children. I've got two little dogs which take my time. But yeah, that's roughly my story. But Jamie, you're ever so slightly different, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, obviously we both got the same back. 18 when I joined, at the sprightly age of 18. But I'm from Nottinghamshire. I'm actually from a little town just down the road from Sherwood Forest, if you know where Robin Hood and his band of merry men used to hang out. So I'm from a little village or a little town not too far away from there is where I sort of grew up. And yeah, Mark and I weirdly kind of fell into this world. We had kind of a lust for adventure because I think that comes from our sort of careers. We've always been thrown into strange places around the world and kind of enjoyed it, but we wanted it from a different angle. So we spent a few years trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We kind of just hit it off straight from meeting each other. Within a couple of days, we were kind of like, this this guy is someone that I could probably spend some time with and have a good laugh. And we really early on said we wanted to do something together, whether that's own a business, whether that's do hobbies or whatever it was. And we had a few weird ideas of, we tried YouTube a couple of times. We bought Land Rovers and did a bit of off-roading, and we tried to set up an outdoor cooking channel and all sorts of things that none of which ever really took off. And then we found motorbikes and decided to try and film that.
Well, strangely enough, we refound motorcycles because another parallel is we were both road riders for years. We both passed when we were 20, 21. And so from roughly the same year, 2000, 2001, we'd ridden road. And then strangely, both of us had given up bikes roughly the same year and taken a bit of a break. So it was almost like we were living in these parallel universes until April 2016, when they came together and was like, now we've got enough brain power to have one plan. And we formed
that's really cool.
And we'll form later.
Yeah. Coincidentally, I'm also quite close to the military. Just as a hobby from when I was 15. Now I'm in the Czech Army Reserves. So yeah, but it's not the Air Force. I'm in mechanized infantry, so it's something completely different. But I was on road bikes. Now I'm into off-road, traveling, racing. So very similar. That's cool.
Well, I mean, I was interested to hear when you said racing, because that's how. I had ridden road, and then I'd raced for a number of years. I'd raced for 4 years, but if I'm quite honest, and I am always honest about this, it made me worried, and I used to have a panic attacks. And so I had a panic attack on a road bike after having raced. So that's why I gave up bikes, and I stepped away from them for maybe 6 years. Until I met Jamie, and we was like, hold on, we both like motorbikes. Well, let's buy motorbikes. And it was meeting one another that got us back into the whole thing, you know?
I think that really is a sort of commonality that everybody in our world has, isn't it? First and foremost, it's the fact that we like bikes, and it almost doesn't matter what bike it is. You know, whether anything from a Harley Davidson Cruiser all the way to a sort of 125 scooter, it makes no odds. If you like to perch your backside on two wheels and have an engine between your legs, we're in the same club, really. And in fact, that's kind of the first bikes that we got back into. You bought a scooter, didn't you, to get to work?
I bought, this big awful Suzuki Bergman thing. Yeah, it was hideous, wasn't it? And you couldn't stop taking the mick out of it. Yeah. And so then to challenge me, you went out and bought an old CBR. So then we had this completely weird mix of bikes between us. You had an old sports bike, and I had this horrible Suzuki Bergman thing, and we just kept on poking fun out of each other. So
basically, until we ended up on our current bikes, the CRFs.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Off-road bikes, Honda. How did you go from road bikes or having a break from road bikes into this?
Yeah. Well, it was a bit of a roundabout story, wasn't it, mate? Because it was about COVID time, and we were out running because we do everything joined at the hip, and it was at that time we were allowed to socialize in small groups of 3 or 4 and such to do exercise. So we decided to exploit that one day at work in the military, and we went out for a run together. And we were running down this, we call them green lanes. I don't know what you'd call them, but there's an unsealed road where you're allowed to take vehicles, this green lane. And we're like, we should bring the Land Rovers down here. But it all seems a bit too difficult. It all seems cumbersome and messy, and you can't chat, and it's just bulky, and it feels almost a burden. So we said, well, this would be fun on motorbikes. So that's how we found off-roading. It was as simple as clean as a conversation as that. But as to finding the CRF, that was a little bit more convoluted, wasn't it, mate? How did that kick off again?
I know he's looking at me because I have a bit of a stupid story here. So at this point in time, Mark's got this 250 scooter, and I've got a sort of 20-year-old sports bike. And I decided that I'm going to convert my CBR 600 into a scrambler. So I ripped all the fairings off. I didn't upgrade the suspension whatsoever, and I effectively just put knobbly tyres onto it. So I put big off-road tyres on it, and then decided to take it down this really rutty sort of green lane that we'd been running along. And I almost killed myself a number of times going down this green lane. It was ridiculous. It fell over. It's like 200 odd kilos, and it falls over all the time. And yeah, you slightly twist the throttle, and obviously it's a sports bike, so the back wheel spins out, and it was hard work. So I was kind of trying to persevere with that a little bit. I was adamant I was going to make it work. I even bought big pannier boxes and all sorts for it, didn't I? Ready for it
Oh,
to.
you were desperate to make it work. Yeah.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Mark decided he was going to trade in the scooter. And so we started looking around at a few different options. You checked out the BMW, was it
But
390?
yeah, so I wanted something really, really clean. I didn't want something burdenous because I'd ridden the bike before I took a break was a Tenere 660, the old XT 660, and I didn't like it. It was too heavy, clunky, and I never dreamt of taking it off road because, quite well, I was a novice off roader, a rank amateur, and it was just too much for me to handle. So it never happened. So I knew I wanted something lighter and smaller, but my heart was set on the GS 310, the BMW.
Yeah.
It was the 310 GS. Heart was set on it, and we'd gone up to BMW. You'd come with me because we do everything together. And I'd looked around it and I said, Jamie, this is hands down. This is the bike. This is the bike. And you were like, oh man, well, I think you should check out the competition. I was like, I mean, I'll take a look, but you're wrong. This is the one I'm buying. And we went and sat on the Royal Enfield Himalayan, and that sort of compounded it because I didn't fit it. My knees, scuffed the tank and didn't fit it. So, by that point, that had even further strongly confirmed that I was getting the BMW. But then, just as we was in the dealership, you said, "Oh, literally, we was thinking about sorting paperwork, putting deposits down, sorting paperwork," and you said, "Mate, there's a Honda dealer 30 miles away. I've got a CRF 250 Rally in. You've never seen one in the flesh. Go and take a look." So you were definitely the catalyst for it. You said you'd be a fool for not taking a look. And
When was this? Which year?
that would have been June 2020.
2020 or 2019? 2019, I think, maybe.
Oh, maybe 19, yeah. Oh, maybe I'm a year out then. Yeah, maybe.
Thereabouts.
So the
Oh, yeah, because the bike was a
250L
year old.
Yeah, the 250L was around for quite a while, but the rally just a year or two.
Right.
Yeah,
There weren't many of them, I think.
no.
But I'd never seen a 250L either at this point. Bear in mind that we
Uh-huh.
were that far removed from off-road. I could point out the latest GSXR, ZX, CBR. I could point out all of those. Your GSs I was very au fait with. Everything. But off-road bikes, in any guise, I didn't know at all.
No, because we didn't even consider the idea of having spoked wheels or the cast wheels or anything like that. weren't really bothered. It was just a bike that can go down some lanes.
Well, that meant nothing to us. It meant nothing to us. We're so ignorant to it. It was all on looks and how it felt.
And so that's where we're at. So we travelled up 30 miles, and the idea was we'll go 30 miles to Honda, have a look there, confirm that you don't like it, mate, and then we'll buy the BMW on the way home. And that was the plan. So we walked into the showroom, Honda, and they had a couple of bikes knocking about. They had some nice brand new ones, and then they had this. It must have been, I think it was a year old, wasn't it?
It was about 9 months old, and I remember it well. As we walked into the dealership, it was just parked along the corridor, about halfway up, in amongst all the brand new bikes, because it was only 9 months old, so they displayed it with the new bikes. And the second I saw it, I went, "Oh wait, there it is! Oh wow, that's a piece of me." As in to say, straight away, I've said it was love at first sight. It just was, and all thoughts of BMW just dissolved in a heartbeat before I'd even sat on it, because it just looked right for me. And so spoke with the man and swung a leg over, and that was it. He might as well have just taken my money there and then.
Well, the test ride consisted of riding around the car park. Then that was it, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. When something just clicks, and it was like, click. It was done. It was bought within 10 minutes. I was handing over money. Yeah. But
what about you, Jamie?
Well,
that was it.
I was going to give you an intro. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing
because
is,
when I was signing paperwork, you were wandering around a shop, weren't you?
I was looking around the shop. I was thinking, yeah, I'm not sure the CBR is going to cut it now, not up against this thing. So we did take it out. We took it out a couple of times. We decided to go off riding into the Peak District, which is notoriously relatively difficult ride. It's quite rocky. There's some steep climbs and it's a bit rubbly in places. So we took the CBR 600 out and we took the nice CRF 250 Rally. And I was just getting more and more annoyed as soon as we got on any bit of off-road, because he was flying straight past me, the suspension was just soaking everything up, and I was going really slow, and I was kind of cumbersome and falling off all the time. So we did it a couple
And
of
it was interesting
times.
because it was our second ever attempt at off-road, and yet still I was flying past you. So
Yeah,
that's how bad the CBR was.
yeah. Yes, definitely was not how good Mark is at riding.
And then because you fell off 3 times, but one of those times wasn't on the off-road, was it?
We don't need to mention that.
Well,
That's
I think it would inform the story if we spoke about each of the times you fell off.
I was trying to do a U-turn on the main road. I'd missed the exit from the main road to go down the lane, and so I tried to do a U-turn. And I'm only little. I know I might look quite tall and quite big and large on the internet, but I'm not. And so my legs could only just touch the floor anyway, even on a lowered. No, it wasn't lowered at the time. Even on a CBR. But yeah, I tried to do a U-turn, and the bike just tipped over in the middle of the road. It was on like a bit of a downward camber,
On a
and I
corner.
was on a corner, and I was panicking, and I was just over the comms. I was like, Mark, get here. There might be a car coming over the hill any minute. I had this great big bike. I couldn't pick it up. And I was trying to drag it across the road, and I had to wait for Mark to come and get me. But yeah, I was so close to, if a car had come around the corner, it would have hit me because there wasn't much that you could see. But yeah, we did that, and then I fell off a couple more times on the lanes as well, didn't I?
But ultimately, I mean, it was hilarious because you just kept on falling off. But it kind of solidified the fact that, right, if you can't lift a CBR on the road, how would you ever lift a GS or whatever bike it might be, easily at least, off the road? So it was a bit of a subliminal lesson, but the actual lesson was you need a dual purpose or off-road bike to go off-road.
And so within a matter of probably a few weeks after yours, wasn't it? I'd bought myself a 250L. And I went for the L because my legs are a bit shorter. It's actually got a slightly lower seat height, and I quite like the looks at the time of it being a bit more dirt bikey. And I've never liked the lights on the rally. I think they look awful.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So speaking of lessons, you had absolutely no experience of roading. Did you take any classes or any tips from instructor, or you just learned on your own?
No, a complete baptism of fire. And well, I'll let Jamie introduce how we properly learned, because we thought we'd gone up and down the Peak District twice, and we thought we're ready for a long week off road because we're stupid.
Because we're idiots. So my bike at this point is, how long have I had it? 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks old.
3 or 4 weeks old, straight from the showroom. And we decided to go to Wales. Not even run in, yeah. We decided to go to Wales. So we headed across to Wales, and we decided that we were going to spend a week doing the TET, the Trans-European Trail.
Which, if you're not familiar with Wales, sorry, because you are in Czech Republic, Wales is one of those parts, we were speaking just before Jamie come on, where I said we've got some really difficult technical terrain. There's 2 areas. Wales is certainly one of those areas. It's probably considered one of the harder areas of UK stretch TET, at least in places. Not all of it, but at least in places.
I think I saw a video of you returning to the spot where you suffered or something like that. Was that Wales?
No, that was the Peak District.
That was the Peak District, yeah. And that's there's parts of the Peak District which are quite testing as well. But we decided to go to. We thought we're probably all right. Let's take these bikes to the hardest part, because we've always been a bit of an idiot in that way, of kind of going
military.
Yeah, like okay, if we're going to do it, let's do it the hardest possible way. So that was it, straight off to Wales, and it really was a baptism of fire. It was full days in the saddle, working so hard because we had no skill. We had no ability. So it was just brute strength of trying to kind of cling on. We were in the slightest bit loose on the bike. We're holding on for dear life. And we even came up with a phrase of clutch out, gun it, go. That was it. Clutch out, gun it, go. If you weren't sure about a bit of terrain, go as fast as you can, and the bike will probably hop over it. And that was
I will say for any listener right now, that is bad advice. That is bad advice for an absolute novice. Don't do it just because we did it. So don't take that as any level of instruction. But we even had it we even put it on a T-shirt, clutch out, gun it, go, because we believed it. Well, we didn't believe it, but we had told ourselves that, and it got us through the week in Wales. But it come at a bit of a cost to both bikes, didn't it, mate?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I burned the clutch out. So my bike's a few weeks old, and I burnt the clutch out on the first outing.
Barely got it home.
Yeah, it kept sort of revving out on the way home, and I kind of had to limp it home. It's 6 weeks old, and it's in the garage. Back to the dealer saying, "Clutch has gone on it."
Yeah, I bent my handlebars falling off on that hill.
Oh yeah. You had a
Nearly,
right time on that hill, didn't you?
nearly. Well, it felt like I nearly broke my ankle, but probably didn't. But getting off and swearing and getting some rudimentary tools out because we didn't know what tools to take, and we just hacking away at bikes because we're halfway up a hill and there's no going down because we don't know how to. So we might as well carry on. It was brutal, wasn't it?
What all of this taught us is we're two normal blokes just trying off road, and what we wanted to do is show everybody that anybody can do it, and so that's why we started filming it. It says, well, let's film this, let's film our whole journey into off-road riding, and we'll just give our honest thoughts, like the normal person's thoughts rather than some pro rider's thoughts. And that was the angle that we've always come from, and we've tried to stay at that angle now, even though we've been riding for a few years now. We're probably reasonably decent.
I
You
think
didn't film
that's
any
what
of
really
Wales.
drew me to you guys as well, because you seemed like ordinary riders, learning the same way I did, and I also burnt in my clutch on the CRF 2 months in. And then I looked for videos where to replace it, and I followed your guide exactly to the letter. So
That's a good video, that one, isn't the Mark did on the clutch? It's
that's
brilliant.
yeah, definitely.
I
Without
saw
it,
it
I
on
would not dare to do it. Really,
I saw it on a
without your
Facebook.
guidance, I wouldn't dare to do it.
Oh wow! See, we saw it on a Facebook. I saw it on a Facebook group only 2 days ago. Somebody had burnt their clutch out, and then somebody said, "Do the lightweight adventure clutch mod." And I thought, wow, it's got its own term. But because my background, I'm an engineer. I'm an aircraft engineer. That's what I've done for 16 years. So changing out a clutch on a relatively simple 250 dirt bike was no hassle to me, And I remember Jamie saying you should film this, and I'm thinking, who's going to watch me complete a clutch? Roll on 3 years, it's now called the Lightweight Adventure Clutch Mod. Wow, wow, So and we constantly get those reminders that you don't know what you don't know, and so you might as well put it out there because it will help somebody. And so that's a bit of a mantra as to I keep on knocking my mic. It's a bit of a mantra as to how we approach the videos sometimes. That well, you might as well put it out there because there'll be somebody that needs to know that. Great. Well, we are now educators. That's what we've moved into in life, and so we should know that. But we still get reminded of it, don't we?
Well, we even made a follow-up video when I did my own clutch. And I said to Mark, I said, wouldn't it be funny if I filmed myself watching your video on how to do the bike? Because I more wanted to film. I've got no mechanical knowledge whatsoever. I rely on Mark completely. So I thought, well, wouldn't that be funny if I do a full service, including clutch change on my bike, just by following your video to almost prove that the video works to people that hadn't seen it? And you're right, it worked flawlessly. I didn't phone him up at all. The video is quite true. It's just I went through all the stages on the video, and it genuinely worked really well. I was even surprised by the end, but it gave me more than just a knowledge about a clutch. It gave me kind of a bit of confidence about, I can do things on a bike,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since those hard beginnings and trial by fire, did you take any classes or you continue to learn on your own?
We still haven't.
No, we genuinely haven't. We've spoken to a few people. We've actually been offered to go across to a riding school over in Wales called Moto Junkies. They've asked us to come across or offered for us to come across and ride with some of their instructors and learn some skills. And I think that's probably something that we are going to be doing in probably the next couple of months, I reckon. And we've also got a friend of ours who keeps telling us to have a go at trials riding as well, because apparently that's a skill. If you can handle a bike nice and slow over obstacles, then actually it brings on your riding on dual sport quite a long way. So we're going to look at doing that as well potentially.
Yeah, but what I will say is, if somebody's sat there thinking, "Oh, I'm not that proficient riding off road, or I need to improve my skills, but I can't perhaps afford to take lessons," that there is a big chunk of learning that is confidence, and so having a go and not overly or not worrying or thinking overly about the consequences is a thing. You do have to be mindful of the consequences. You don't want to ruin your bike. You don't want to hurt yourself. It has to be measured. but not overthinking things. You know, if you're going to go up a rocky incline, probably what's the worst that's going to happen? You'll lay the bike down. And then, so if you're going to practice a skill before you go out, it's how to pick your bike up, you know? So think about it a little bit, but a bit of confidence and just not overthinking the consequences overly beyond safety is a big part of it. You know, I think a lot of people have learned that way. That's not to diddle any off-road school out of business, because they will teach you that extra step. But in the first instance, you know,
True. What I did is I looked on YouTube for videos for any kind of guides of how to stand and how to do this maneuver or that maneuver. I find that there is a lot of good advice, but also bad advice. So taking classes and actually spending a day on a bike, learning with someone who has the skills is definitely better. I definitely recommend that.
It really is. I mean, I'm quite lucky that I ride with Mark, and he used to race, and I've never been an overly good rider. I don't think so. All right, I'm okay on the road. I'm okay off road. But even when Mark and I went on, I think it might have been, was it the Spanish? Was it Search for the Sound? We went Spanish, and you were riding behind me and gave me some very simple tricks of tuck your elbows in when you go around the bend, makes it easier for steering, and even
going around the Bosnian mountains, weren't we?
Oh, was it Bosnia?
Yeah, and you said, I just can't seem to get comfy at any level of speed, and so just a level of coaching. Or tuck your shoulders in, use them as levers instead of then leaning with your shoulder rather than with your elbow, and because that affect your counter steer. And you sped up like twice as fast, didn't you? I was like,
yeah,
hell.
within the space of just a few minutes. And yeah, this is just someone, like you say, coaching you, and that was exactly what will happen in an off-road school. Someone will ride with you and say, okay, move your foot into this position, get your weight into this position for going up the hill, and get your weight into this position for going down. And it's just a bit of confidence that you're doing things right, I suppose. You know, where to shift your body and how to move on the bike, and letting the bike move underneath you. And once somebody of ability can tell you that, then you start to believe, oh, actually, this is normal. The bike squirming underneath on loose ground. Oh, that's normal. Okay, I just need to get used to that feeling. And so definitely a level of coaching is definitely useful. Well, I don't know about off-road. We haven't done it yet. We'll do it soon. Yeah. We'll tell you how useful that is.
Yeah. Well, because we've both got trips coming up this year, which are a bit out of our comfort zone. So I think for that next level up, I think it's a sure thing. You really must go out and get a bit of extra training if you're going to put yourself out of your comfort zone. But I will stand by it. If you're just in those first few steps, there is a lot to be said for having a bit of a go. But yeah, definitely a bit of coaching will go a long way.
Yeah, or breaking a couple of bones and then learning.
No. Nobody take unnecessary risks. But if you bent a lever in your local lane because you were trying something, then the worst is you spend 15, 20 euros getting a new lever, right? So in that consequence, a bit of a measured approach to it. If you're out in the back end of nowhere trying to manual your bike over logs, well, have another think about it, because the consequences are too great. But if you're a couple of miles from home, you've got somebody that you could call, and you happen to break your clutch lever, is it the worst thing in the world? To try and learn a new skill versus spending the hundreds.
Part of the adventure, right?
Yeah. Have you done any training yourself? Have you, or you got any planned to do any training?
I have. I've done a lot of practice on my own, like I said, videos, and a lot of trial and error. And for example, I find that there is a lot of bad advice in the adventure rider community. Like, there is good stuff and bad stuff, but what I learned the most was, or what was the best, was actual enduro and motocross rider advice for bike position, braking, cornering, things like this. Those are, because the guys are efficient. They have to go at speed. They have to go safe. Whereas the adventure riders and their instructors are more focused on, or I feel they are more focused on comfort and resisting the whole day on the foot pegs. So there is a lot of compromises, and I felt those. I wasn't comfortable there, and I went into the more racing way. So nowadays I mostly ride enduro. I do some rally racing and a bit of traveling. So that's my balance there. But I did take classes. It was yeah, it was funny story actually. So like I said, my first bike was the Tenere 700, and it was just way too heavy for me to do any off-roading on. I thought, okay, let me get a lighter bike. So I got the 250 Rally, being inspired by you guys. And the local dealer in Honda told me, "Hey, look, you can take this class here, the circuit, and they will teach you." And there were two parts, like you go for the adventure riding class or the hard enduro class. So I signed up for the hard enduro class with the
Of
250
course.
Rally. The description said something like. Light off-road motorcycle. I thought, oh, come on. Compared to my
That's me.
T7, this is a light motorcycle, right? That's me. Let me go there. And I went there. There were like 14, 15 guys, all on two strokes, 300s. I think there was one guy with a four-stroke, and me. And I passed the whole course, like to the amazement of all. I did everything all over the obstacles,
Brilliant.
and at the end, when we were just, this kind of graduation, we were riding through the forest. People were falling left and right. I did it, no problem. Then I went the second time. Now with my gain confidence, I went too fast. I flew over the bars, broke my hand. That was my first
Ah.
class.
Oh no.
Yeah. There's a moral there, I'm sure, isn't there? Pride becomes for a
Yeah,
fall. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what's
Then
interesting about this? You were talking about your T7 because I now ride a T7, but I'm only confident on it now that I've learnt on a smaller bike. Because I do think some of the skills you learn on small bike naturally translate to a bigger bike, but it's
definitely.
not vice versa. So if you
Yeah,
learnt those skills on a bigger bike, which I thought I had racing, you have to relearn skills to apply to a smaller bike. They're not directly transferable, at least in my experience, because you haven't got, especially when you're talking about power and comfort. Comfort comes easily on a big bike. You have to work for it slightly on a smaller bike, I find. And you haven't got the power to get you out of trouble on a smaller bike. So you have to have better technique, better positioning, better understanding, or you can be, I want to use the term lazy, but I don't mean it derogatorily, but it's on tap, isn't it? So to lift the front wheel or to weight the back versus the front, it's relatively easy versus on a smaller bike. So that the skills aren't directly transferable both ways, I don't feel.
that's where the Honda is really well placed. Yeah, it's pretty weak. It's not too light, not too
Mm-hmm.
heavy. It's pretty cheap. I wish it was more durable with a bit more resistant plastic bits because I broke almost all on mine. So, but
Have you trimmed the lower half off yet? Like
of
some of
course,
us do.
following your video, I did.
Ah,
Yes.
did your Dremel blow up as well?
No, I think I did it with the other thing, like a bigger cutter.
Yeah.
What's the word for that?
But what did you call it?
Flex
Sorry.
cutter.
The bigger cutter. I don't know what it's called.
Oh, an
Like a
angle grinder.
grinder or
Angle grinder.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, with the angle grinder, and then I just finished it off with a Dremel. But mine did
Yeah.
not catch on fire.
Well, are you even trying if it doesn't catch on fire? Yeah.
I don't have to follow every footstep of yours. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit of bad advice. Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to something you said, you were giving each other advice on the go. So you're using intercoms.
Yeah, we've
We've
always
been
ridden
on
with
an
intercoms.
Okay.
intercom journey, haven't we? For want of a cliche, we started cheap and we've slowly worked up and up, realizing the benefit of just having put your hand in the pocket a little bit more. We started with some
Okay.
cheap
So
ones. In fact, I recently threw it out, a little one off Amazon. We bought it for 60 quid. And we were riding at the time, both of us, with the Bell MX9 helmet. I don't know if you know the helmet. It's like a motocross style helmet, but it's relatively noisy, but it's affordable because we were just beginning, so don't want to spend out hundreds. But you couldn't hear each other over about 40 miles an hour. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. It just
Rubbish, weren't they?
made it really difficult. A lot of wind noise and then road noise. So we decided that we wanted to upgrade, and we decided to spend out on two sets of Senna, and we wanted the ones. We ultimately wanted something that we could record our comms. As we found that to be one of the most difficult things is getting a decent system that's easy to use, that records all the communications, records all your talk. But the Senna had a camera in it, and so we selected that one. I think it was their flagship model. It was expensive. It was circa £300, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, And actually, it turned out that we never used the camera. We probably used it 2 or 3 times, and then that became more difficult than it needed to be. So we then just used it as headsets, and that was good, but not without issues. We had quite a few issues on our trip to Spain and
Yeah,
back, didn't we?
lots of interference and breaking up.
And then just recently, we've been given some brand new sets, haven't we?
Yeah,
That we're
we've
currently trying
moved
out.
the Cardo Pack Talk Edge, which we've been trying out. So, for transparency, we were giving them. So we're still trying them, and we're not endorsing them directly because we were
And
giving them. But the so far so good. That the audio's quality. You can record the audio, and it's one thing or another. I'm not going to go into it now because I don't want to sound like an advert because we're still getting to know them, but.
I think that's completely fine. I just wanted to know if these are using Bluetooth or mesh. Do
So
you have experience with mesh?
yeah, so the Cardo is the first. The last one that we're using is the first one with mesh. We've never encountered mesh before. All the previous times it's been with Bluetooth. Yeah, it's a bit of a revelation, isn't it? Mesh.
Mm.
You press a button and it immediately connected, and
Yeah.
wow, how seamless is this?
I
Yeah.
think I skipped your journey because I went directly to the basic setup mesh model. So I'm very, very, very happy with that. But what I dislike is actually when we go riding in pair, there is always a little bit of noise and someone pulling on their nose or a little bit of I do riding also to clear my head, and just having someone there on the other end talking to you and you talking to them, it's good to have the connectivity, but not always. So I think
Do you know what?
95% of the time I listen to music on that headset, and it's just
Well,
Wow.
we had I'm guessing you're thinking of the exact same experience or the same story
Yeah.
as I am.
Yeah.
When we went down to Spain. Well, I'll let you tell this one because I've chatted a bit.
Well, we're like a married couple. Everybody calls us the old married couple, and we had a marital fallout, didn't we, in Spain? Because we just ultimately ended up bickering for a couple of reasons, and it was this one particular stretch of road. And I said, "Right, I'm switching to music." The first time in it got to about 10 days, and we said, "We're switching to music." I've had enough of you, sort of thing. And we rode for about 3 hours with music, and we both came on, and we were like different people. We were just like, wow, I really enjoyed that. I was in my own space. And what we figured was we'd spent 10 hours entirely in each other's heads because you're speaking with each other, you put the helmet on, you're speaking with each other, you take the helmet off to speak to each other. And there wasn't a minute of own time. So you
yeah,
couldn't have your own thoughts, your own whatever. And so a couple of hours of music going up that we was on motorway at that bit, weren't we? Just coming away from the seaside
Mm.
and going up. It's like, wow, this is the mood changed. So it wasn't either of us annoying each other. It was our own internal not having that space that just put us in that mind frame. But it took us 10 days to get there, which I think is pretty good actually.
Yeah, it's definitely like you were saying that you go into your on your bike to kind of, like I say, get away from the world and sort of get a little bit of time to yourself. And we realised the importance of that after that 10 days. Because, like Mark said, if you're constantly in each other's ear chatting, you don't get any of that time just for kind of enjoying the world just on your own for a little bit. Even though we're kind of riding together, we love riding in pairs or even with groups. But yeah, there's that time that's nice just to have to yourself, isn't there? Almost like almost a sort of meditative time as well on the motorbike, and just you and your machine. Not to sound too twee, but yeah, it's quite nice.
Hmm.
I completely understand. So do you ride alone as well?
No,
We are actually we're starting to ride more alone recently, but up until recently, we kind of tend to only ever go out together, don't we? Or if we're going
yeah,
to ride with somebody else, really.
yeah. So for example, we're going out this weekend, but only as a pair. That what we found was the bikes was a mechanism to enjoy time, with mates. It we'd ridden separately beforehand, and now we're enjoying it as a pair. But sort of because our work had changed, and one thing another, our availability had changed. We're sort of starting to ride a little bit more alone, and it's got different pros and cons. Yeah, I don't know if I enjoy it quite as much, but there is also a hankering in me to travel alone. So it's a bit of a different dialogue. It's this year certainly I'll be traveling alone, and Jamie's moving away, so he'll have the opportunity. So work and life has kind of forced us down that path. So it'll probably be a good question for a couple of years' time as to whether we enjoy it or not. But, well, I can bet you bottom dollar in about 8 months, 9 months' time, when we get together again, we'll be desperate to ride as a pair, because we have so much fun, and we tell stupid, idiotic jokes and silly little things. Actually, the riding the bike isn't as important at that pace. I mean, the amount of times we've had to pull over, it's been dangerous to ride because we're crying with laughter, because we've said something stupid, or it's typical little boys talking.
Yeah, it's not even the sort of things that we could probably regale you now with some of the conversations that's made us laugh, and it wouldn't be funny in the slightest.
No.
But it's one of those things, when you're with a good mate and one says something to the other one, and that just sets you both off laughing, and that's it. And we do that probably half a dozen times every time we go for a ride, and it's just that's the bike just happens to be. It's actually a vehicle, but it is just a vehicle for us to go out and spend time
Yeah.
with a mate, having a bit of a laugh, and just having a bit of fun.
Yeah. So now with that experience from Spain of having a bit of bickering, what's your practice? Do you balance it? Do you switch it out, or you just continue as is?
No, we continue as is until we get annoyed with each other, and then we put our music on.
That's the operation's normal now.
Yeah, that's how it works now. Come on.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, honestly, we should have learnt our lesson, but we don't, because you get so giddy excited in that first week, and there's so much to see and talk about, and you don't recognise the gradual decline of mood and need for own space until it's close to too late, and then by which point you're already a week and you're like, I think I need my own space. We did it a lot more when we went across to Croatia, Bosnia sort of area, didn't we? We did it a lot more and a little bit sooner, but it wasn't overly a conscious decision to plan it out that way.
To be fair, as much as we get on well with each other and we are best friends, which makes life much easier, we've more and more tried to be honest with each other, and that can be quite a difficult thing amongst blokes and amongst mates. So there's certain things we, as similar as we are, we're very different. So I like to kind of spend time in a place. So I'd like to rush to the next place and then spend a bit of time there and kind of take it slow when I'm off the bike. Whereas Mark will like to just keep moving constantly and ride for longer, and then get off the bike, camp overnight, get up next morning and start moving again and see the world from his bike. So we're both different in that way. So we have to make sure that our trips, when we do them, appease both parties. And I think it really is it's an advertisement for good communications. If you're going to go out riding with anybody for any length of time, we got to even to the stage on our last trip where we would set out how long we're allowed to stop at service stations for lunch, how long the breaks were going to be. If we're just stopping, it's 15 minutes and we have to have wheels moving. And then that got both of us going, all right, I know I've got 15 minutes. And Mark's like, okay, I've got to wait 15 minutes, but it's only 15 minutes and we're gone. And it kept both of us happy then. Or if we're going to stop for lunch.
Yeah. But likewise, we'll stop at 4 instead of, I'm happy to ride until 6 or 7. But the compromise of having a shorter break is, well, we'll stop earlier and we'll camp while the sun's still up. So, yeah, without sounding too much like a married couple, it was all about compromise, communication, as all good pairings, relationships, adventures are. And so we profess to people, our followers, who are predominantly male. We've probably got a 70-30 split. And males are typically really bad at that sort of thing. They just are. And so, to the detriment of themselves, they'll set out without speaking about it because it's mildly uncomfortable. And so now we profess that you've got to have that uncomfortable conversation until you're a week down the road, because you'll just end up falling out. You trust us. We know how that works,
Yeah.
So that leads me to another thought. Married couple, what do you think of riding if your wife or your girlfriend were to have a motorcycle Would you go with her? Would you travel around the world with her or around Europe? Where do you find the benefits or disadvantages of actually going in a couple?
Well, I'll let Jamie answer this one in full because your good lady friend is a motorcyclist.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. So my girlfriend, my partner, she is a biker, and she's online as well, and so she's got her own presence online. But we've not really ridden together too much. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's an importance to be able to enjoy both sides of it. I definitely want to still ride with Mark, and that's and my mates, and that's time for me to go and do my own thing, and she can go and ride with her friends, and that's time for her to do her own thing. But there's also space for us to both go out and travel and adventure and do things together as well, which will be its own thing. That will probably be our holidays. Whereas some people who don't have a riding partner will maybe just go and do different types of holidays. I think we'll probably do biking holidays largely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's really attractive to me because I find it just something so nice about traveling in a couple, seeing the world, sharing it, much like you guys have. But then a friend of mine who predominantly travels or rides alone, he's like an ultimate dual sporter, just goes on uh, after work, camps overnight, gets up in the morning, drives home, goes to work, things like that. So, and he told me, "Oh, I would never do that. Never would I take my girlfriend out. This is my space. This is me, and she has no business in here."
well, strangely,
So,
I think I can identify with that because I've often asked my wife if she would ever be interested in getting a license because I think for very short bursts it would be lovely to share it with her, but it'd have to be incredibly short bursts. So, like, I love spending time with her, of course, any level of time. But
yeah,
this is me. This is my characteristic. This is mine, and so I like to do this. And so when we go off on adventures, I like to come back after a few weeks and or even a few months and tell her all about it because that's my life and I'm regaling it to her. If we, I mean, but we are relatively independent in that sense. If we spend all the time with one another, what do we share other than the things we've already shared? So there needs to be a real nice balance, if that makes sense. We already share the majority of our home life together. So why do we have to share the rest? Otherwise, you're at a 99% share. Does that make
Mm.
sense? It's nice to have own
absolutely.
space. And so yeah, I don't know because it's all hypothetical to me, but I don't know if I would like it. And I know Katie would say the same. She would absolutely. I mean, you know Katie as well as I do,
Mm.
Jamie, but she would say, "No, I want my own space." It was
Yeah,
her thing.
and me and Ash have had that conversation of, yeah, we're looking forward to going riding and camping together, but she also says you need to get out with Mark,
Mm.
and she's very conscious that she doesn't want to step on the toes of that relationship. Me with my best mate, but we do know people who have ridden around the world together. So
Yeah,
Simon
and
and
it clearly
Lisa
works.
Thomas, yeah, Simon and Lisa Thomas, two ride the world, spent 17 years riding around the world together, just those two, and we see them relatively regularly, a few times a year, at events and things, and they have a really strong relationship, and they love the idea of riding together. So,
If you're interested in couples currently riding the world, check out a couple called I Like Motorbikes. They're a young guy and his girlfriend called Lauren, Tom and Lauren. They're currently halfway down through Africa, and they're living the life that Jamie's just told of Simon and Lisa, but right now, and they're young, and it's
mm,
it's contemporary, and you can follow their journey on Instagram, and so if you want to see that dynamic play out, and it's working out beautifully at the minute, so watch it because it's fascinating. Because I don't think Katie and I could work like that for whatever reason. But it is fascinating, isn't it? Because you watch when something happens, how they interact with one another and act, and when one of the bikes had a problem, who took charge of that, and then responsibilities in it shift, and it's like a social experiment as much as it is a motorcycle adventure.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, you have someone like Norali from Itchy Boots who travels the world
Right,
alone,
alone.
strictly alone, except some short
mm.
periods.
Yeah.
That's so impressive and inspiring. But yeah, I don't think I would want to go around the world alone. I don't know. I don't.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually,
Well,
I mean
I guess
It
it's
it
an
holds an
answer
appeal.
somewhat everyone has to find for themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is entirely individual, 100% individual, and yeah, as our experience has shown, it works both ways. Yeah,
I think it depends on what you would want from the trip.
Mm.
If you want to go around the world to see nice things, and well, that'd be lovely to do with your partner, to go and look at nice things, experience some nice stuff, and genuinely that would be lovely. I think if you want to go around the world to kind of discover yourself or challenge yourself, or kind of put yourself in difficult scenarios where only you can get yourself out of them, which is definitely something that appeals to us. And I think that's probably from our military background, almost want to pit yourself against the world. Well, I think that is something that's more prevalent or more likely to happen if you're riding solo.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And actually,
Mm.
Mark wants to do that, and that's why we're talking about this, because actually Mark is going to go off on a trip this year, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, I'm setting off in July. I'm riding from UK, my current homestead in Lincolnshire, down to Cape Town in South Africa. Taking a number of months for those very reasons that Jamie's just said, to go out and challenge myself and learn new things about myself and understand how I operate for a few months adventuring on my own. So I guess I can see it from that sense. And weirdly, I'm going to leave my wife, as in Jamie, elsewhere. You know, we're not going to adventure that one together. But also convinced to add another layer on that one, if Jamie were available and we were to do it together, man, that would be an amazing adventure to do. But because it's a different dynamic to my wife, my actual wife. So yeah,
Yeah.
multi-layered.
So Cape Town on your own. How long is the trip planned for?
I'm taking just under 5 months, I think. I'm going to leave end of July and make it back sometime in December. I'm looking up at my map on my wall at the minute, and I'm looking at all that distance, thinking, how on earth do I cover it? But people
And
do
you're
it.
gonna
People do it.
fly back in, or how are you gonna get back?
Yeah, I'm going to ship the bike back from South Africa, from Cape Town to Rotterdam. I think it goes to the boat, and I'll fly home I hope in time for Christmas. It's the grand master plan. You wait.
All right,
You
sounds
wait.
so cool. Well,
I'll be stuck in Cape Town at Christmas, crying to myself.
which bike are you taking then? Because I know you have the Tenere 700 World Raid
Yeah,
now, and the
yeah,
CRF 250 Rally as well.
yeah.
Which
There's
bike are
only,
you taking?
I mean, there's only really one suitable answer to that, isn't there? It's the Yamaha. No, I'm taking the CRF, of course. Yeah. No, you know what? The sensible part of me, every bit of my mind appeals to the logic of it and says you should take the World Raid. But I know, heart of hearts, that that is the absolutely wrong bike. So I'll be taking the CRF, because I know with the CRF I can get out of most bits of problem on my own, whereas I won't be able to do that on the World Raid, even though that
It
would
might
be
be
the
also
easier bike.
easier to have it serviced in Africa.
Well, I'll simply do it myself, and tires and parts, and people ride smaller bikes around Africa and other parts of the world, so it's less imposing, and also if you turn up on a £12,000 bike in a country which is poorer than the West, it sends a message, and it's not a message I want to send because I don't believe it. So turning up on a bike, which my bike's been hacked to pieces, it looks hideous now. I mean, you've seen it. Um, it's more appropriate, I believe, at least.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Which bike would you
what's your
take if
route?
you're given the choice? Which bike would you take?
I was expecting you would say the World Raid, but I was gonna say for me, I would have taken the Rally. So
There you go.
like yourself.
Yeah, it never crossed my mind to take the World Raid. It just didn't.
I think
Although I
the
know in my
Honda
heart.
is really good bike to take around the world. Yeah, so I know Lyndon Boskett built his rally bike to travel around the world. And that thing is a beast. That
It
is
really is. Yeah.
perfect. But not everyone can have that. And while not having as much power, the Honda might as well be the second best. Yeah, I wouldn't want probably to travel on a light enduro bike. It's like these. Some people adventurize their 501s or 350s or whatever. It's probably doable, but then the service intervals and everything, the Honda is just comfortable riding all day long, temperature wise. I broke my cooler a while back, and I did realize for a while, and bike ran fine. No
Yeah.
problem. So,
And you know what? The journey is around about 18,000 miles. So I'll probably service it once. That's crazy, isn't it? All that way, and I'll probably only change the oil once. And I'll dust out the air filter every now and then. That's all I intend to
okay.
do. Yeah. But
So
there's a lot of thought process that you should service them early because you've only got a litre and a half. But think how hard the engine's actually working. Probably not that hard. I mean, Jamie, how often do you actually service your bike? And I mean, if we're being honest,
Hardly ever. In all fairness, it's. Have I serviced it a couple of times since I've owned it in the last few years? Really?
and it's going beautifully strong.
Yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely
So
fine.
that's probably my plan. I'll intend to. I'm taking one oil filter, so that's my intention.
maybe
Yeah.
a spare clutch, huh?
Well, I'm changing the clutch before I go, but the current clutch, the lightweight adventure clutch mod, as I'm now calling it, has got 15,000 miles on it of European Transio trail. So that's how hard I've worked it. And I don't care for my bikes. I use them as a tool, and it's still showing no signs of slipping. So I would have confidence in the clutch. Yeah, so I don't intend to take a spare clutch pack. I don't think that's going to come down to packing sizes and weights. But I don't. It's not my intention. Because as
Okay.
soon as you take a spare clutch, you should really take a spare gasket. Are you going to get the oils? Are you going to get the fluids for your coolant? What if you're out and changing the clutch and then a spring goes? It's better not to crack into the engine. So all these factors are coming into my mind before you're carrying a bucket full of spares, just in case.
And if you get to a stage where you do need it, well, you'll source it or get it sent over from the UK to a post office or some sort of
Yeah,
place where you just go and pick it up. I mean,
Take a week or two break. Rest.
sure.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's my attitude towards it, which wasn't my attitude 3 years ago when I started riding. Incidentally, we packed everything just in case and thought, what if? And now experience has shown us that you'll probably be okay. And on the rare occasion you're not, there's probably a solution. And on the rare occasion there's not, you can always just fly home and sort it later.
All right. So, in terms of Europe, you've been to Spain. I heard Bosnia, Croatia. Where else have you been to? Bikes.
Well, on the CRFs.
On the
Go on, Jamie.
CRFs, they've been the two. I say we've not actually been riding that long, so they've been the two big trips that we've done. We rode all the way through France, Andorra, Spain, right down to the southern coast, with the sole intention of pulling donuts in a desert. That was the only point in the whole trip, was to go and pull donuts in a desert in southern Spain,
That
and
was
we
a
did it.
letdown, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, because we're not very good at pulling donuts. We basically fell off a couple of times, and you broke a bit of your bike, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Yeah. Broke a bit of plastic off and had a stone stuck in my plastics, which is still there. I
Yeah,
glued it in
exactly,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we,
So,
sorry, go on.
if you had more to say, go on.
I was just going to say, and that trip really was a trip of two halves, quite literally. Obviously, it was the journey down and the journey back, and they were both done very differently. Sort of Mark drove the journey down there, and then I kind of took the reins for the journey back home, and we travelled very differently. We almost powered down there to get to the desert as quick as we could, really. And then on the way back, we almost enjoyed the journey of just riding the trails and kind of taking our time on the way back. And we kind of enjoyed both for very different reasons, but it made us realise the pros and cons of the two different types of riding. So that was really a good trip for us from a understanding ourselves and riding perspective, as much as it was actually going out and seeing some cool stuff.
And riding through a desert, which was cool. We'd never done that before.
Yeah, exactly. And getting photos in big canyons. It's where they used to shoot all the spaghetti westerns and stuff like that. So they're all the canyons down in southern Spain. It's brilliant.
Yeah, strangely enough, if you've never seen it, we made a feature-length film out of it, Search for the Sand. The title that comes up actually says Seach for the Sand because I misspelt it, but I refused to change it. But it's one of our most viewed videos now. It's really creeping, and people always comment on it that they enjoyed watching us develop as riders and as mates as much as going to see the deserts and stuff. And we never thought about that when we filmed it, did we? We were so blasé about it. We just went to the desert. And we come back and we really reflected on it. It's like, wow, yeah, it was an adventure on a number of levels. Yeah, brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
And then
So
to follow that up, we decided to push into the southeast of Europe. But the plan was to ride all the way down to Albania, I think it was, wasn't it, at one point? And Romania, and kind of do a big loop.
I don't think we made it to Albania, did we, mate?
We didn't make it to Albania.
Any ideas why we didn't?
We got stopped at a border, didn't we?
Did we? What
Which
happened at
border
the
was it?
border?
Which border did we get stopped at?
I think it was a Montenegrin border, wasn't
I
it?
think it
I
might
don't know.
have been.
You'll remember it a lot clearer than me.
We rode all the way down, went through Bosnia, and the idea going through Montenegro and then into Albania and camping on the beach, and that was the plan. We got through the first checkpoint, which allowed us to leave Bosnia. We rode through the no man gap between the countries, really, before we checked into Montenegro. Got to the Montenegrin border, and the guy basically said, "No, you're not coming in." We'd taken digital copies of all of our bike documents and not taken the physical paper copies, and he didn't like that idea. So he said, "No, you're not coming."
And he shouted at us very angrily.
He did shout at us quite angrily, and turned us around. And so we rode back to the Bosnian border, didn't we?
About, I don't know, 1.5 kilometres away. We got back to the Bosnian border, which we had only exited maybe 30 minutes before. And we went to get into Bosnia. It's our only way back. And he goes, "Sure, where's your bike documents?" I said, "Well, we've bought digital copies." He said, "No, you need hard copies. You can't come in." Oh, because now we're stuck in no man's land with no bike documents. We've only just left your country. Wow.
We literally had to say to him, your mate sat behind you has just watched us drive out. And he was like, "Okay." So we just stood at the border, and it was a case of, so what do you want us to do? Because they say we can't go there, and you say we can't come in here. What do you want us to do? Like, we've got no options here. We're in between two countries.
And so they had a bit of a conversation, a relatively active conversation, came back over to us, you were in front, and the border guard just went, as if to say, go on, I haven't seen you. So, right, this is our opportunity. So we rode off. Bear in mind, we'd been angrily shouted at men with machine guns at this point. We were a little bit shaken. It was our first real ever border crossing out of mainland Europe. And so, on bikes at least, we'd done it with work, but it was quite an ordeal. So we pulled up the side of the road and we had a bit of a cool down. I think we filmed it. And then as we pulled off to go and enjoy the rest of Bosnia, which turned even weirder after that, I said to Jamie, "I didn't get stamped back into the country. So I'm now stamped out, but I'm not stamped back in." So if you can follow it, we were stamped in at Bosnia on the western border, out on the southern, but not back in, going back. So now I'm in Bosnia illegally. So if we get stopped by the authorities, or we need assistance, or
have an accident,
what do we say now? And it only dawned on us, and we weren't going back to the border to say, "Excuse me, mate, I know we shouldn't be here, but you didn't stamp my passport." That's not an option, is it? So off we went, and we were very well behaved.
Yeah. What we found though is that it almost meant that we were then we kind of locked down in Bosnia, because we didn't want to leave Bosnia in case we couldn't get back in again now. And what we'd seen up until that point was that Bosnia was beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
There's some amazing landscapes there, and we'd had a great time. So we kind of grabbed the opportunity and said, "Right, let's just enjoy Bosnia as much as we can." And so that's what we did, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that night we were sung at by a Dutch medium next to a river which was rising because they'd opened a dam.
Yeah.
The adventure just started to unfold at that point. It was a turning point out of our control, and it just got better and better and better from that point. And it taught us that we just need to let go of the reins on an adventure and let it happen, because we were not stressed, but het up the fact that, well, you especially, because it was like your idea to bring the digitals, and I was like, "Well, no, mate, we made this decision together, but that's the situation we're in. Let's go with it." And from that point onwards, we just had the best time, didn't we? Like the best time. Yeah,
genuinely brilliant. And I suppose it's a lesson to us that I mean, when one door closes and it literally closed down our opportunity to go out the country, then another one opens, and we were opened to the brilliance of Bosnia. And if you've if you've not experienced Bosnia, I can't sing its praises enough, and I know Mark can't,
Oh, I
because
love the place. Yeah.
we had a great time. We sat in some hot springs at 6 o'clock in the morning, just relaxing there next to a beautiful river. We met some incredible people, and we sort of went and had a look at some awesome history, as well as riding some of the most beautiful canyons I've ever seen. It's an incredible place.
And just rocking up to bars, like we rocked up to this one pub to stop for lunch, and we looked behind and we saw that they'd had a little B&B, and I can see people drinking a pint of beer. We got the flavour. So we went in and said, have you got any rooms? And he goes, no, I'm sorry, no rooms. I was gutted, because we were overlooking this this enormous lake with this beautiful snowy capped mountain range in the background. It couldn't have been much more off a postcard. It was picturesque to the toy. Like, wow, this is incredible, and we're not going to get to stay here. And then he says, but you can pitch your tents in the front garden if you like. What? Yeah. And so pitch them next to the bench, and the sun was beaming down, and I was like, wow, how have we fallen on our feet here? And then some Polish guys come round, and we got chatting with those, and we had a couple of beers, and we just fell on our feet every single day and night thereafter, didn't we?
We really did. Yeah, it was beautiful and really affordable. Yeah, it was. I think he charged us, I don't know, 10, 15 euros or something like that to camp out, and
€7 to
was it
camp on the front
€7?
lawn. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
cheap. And the beer was, waited on hand and foot with food and beer for the rest of the afternoon. It was brilliant.
Yeah, we loved it.
Back to the border crossing. What documents were required for you to have?
So you meant to take everything. In UK, we have insurance. You have proof of vehicle tax, which doesn't apply obviously when you go out, but we should have taken it anyway. And then most importantly, this document called a V5. It's your vehicle registration, which shows that you're the legal keeper.
This big, yeah.
No. For us, it's I've got one here. It's your viewers won't be able to see it unless your listeners, unless they're watching. But it's an A4 document, which opens right out. It's my vehicle title, and it says that I'm responsible for the bike.
And you have to take this whole thing.
Right. And so I'd read online that you could take high value photocopies, but I decided, well, anyway, I found mine, so I might as well just take this. I'll take this. But I know you can take photocopies because I've read that online. Well, you couldn't find yours, could you? But you could. No. You did have a photo, because you had a photo for whatever reason.
I think from our last trip or something, we always send the photos to each other, so we've always got backup copies and stuff like that. And yeah, we had the digital copy, thought that was okay. It was fine when we got into Bosnia. It wasn't fine the second time.
Well, the guy didn't even check it coming into Bosnia.
No.
So what it taught us was it's really hit and miss getting in and out of countries. They don't always check the same things, but you need to have them just in case. So getting into Bosnia, literally just a passport and a stamp. Getting out of Bosnia, passport, stamp. Getting into Montenegro, they wanted a lot. Getting back into Bosnia, they wanted a lot. So, but then when we left Bosnia for the second time to go into Croatia, again, not even a glimpse, was it? So,
no.
Yeah. But it's always easier getting into that main EU area than it is getting out. I mean, we know that now. But if in doubt, just take it. Just take it.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, you went from Spain, Bosnia, Croatia. Now you're going to Africa. How do you plan such a trip? What goes in, before you even get started?
Yeah, well, careful what you ask me, because I'm still panicking about it, if I'm quite honest. When we went to Bosnia, we promised not to plan anything. We didn't even have the ferry booked from UK to mainland Europe. We didn't plan a single thing because we wanted to trial it. And as much as I was a little bit unsure about it, I ended up absolutely loving that way of travel. But going to Africa, you can't travel like that, because it's visas and it's paperwork and it's bureaucracy and it's international travel. So I'm having to plan. So let's go back a step. The plan was actually to travel east, and that plan got turned off. So I had actually planned to travel east quite a way over to Thailand, and for whatever reason that was cancelled. So now I'm going down through Africa. So now I'm having to catch up on the planning, because there's an amount of it. You're going for a few days. You have to get visas. You don't get all the visas in your home country. You have to get some of them en route. Some are online, some are in person, some are at the border. So you have to know that. You have to know which currencies to take. You have to have a small amount of cash on you. You have to know the languages. So it's overwhelming, if I'm quite honest. I mean, me and Jamie meet routinely at work still, and I'll be thinking about it, or I'll be researching or something. And I'll say, well, when I go home tonight, I'm going to have to think about this. And I hope it's worth the payoff. I hope the planning and the thought process is worth the payoff. I think it will
Are
be.
you using any agency for this, or you're doing all this checking yourself?
I'll do it all myself. Part of the reason I'm going is to test myself, and understand what I'm about. So part of it is, for me at least, part of it is all that pre-work and figuring it out myself. I am speaking with friends who have already done it, so they're giving me a bit of a steer. A guy called Nye Davies, the Wandering Nye on Instagram, has literally just come back from doing the trip. So he's given me some great information. But there's still an amount of work you need to do yourself, But the fun, that's the fun of it, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is. I think it is.
Do you speak any other language than English?
No.
So, how does that factor in when you're traveling? Do you can you rely on English being your only language of communication, or do you have to be selective about which country to visit or not?
We're never selective, but you speak a little bit of French, don't you, Jamie?
Yeah,
So
between the two of us, we managed to muddle our way through with poor language skills. When we're going through anywhere that speaks French, I can largely get us through. I can order some food. I can have a little bit of conversation, and we can order drinks, which is about all you need, really. If we go somewhere that's German speaking, Mark's actually quite decent at German as well. So between the two of us, we can speak a few languages. Anything other than that, we get to Spain. In fact, I remember when we crossed the border from France into Spain, we pulled up at the first pizzeria, and both of us sat there and went, "How do we ask for something here?" Because neither of us had any language skills whatsoever. So we resorted to pointing at things on a menu, and that
yeah,
was it.
which feels embarrassing, but because we're British, we're incredibly privileged in one sense that English is the international language. But it's also embarrassing to not be able to speak the languages. So we desperately try, and I'm now, because my plans only turned to Africa recently. I'm now trying just to pick up a few French phrases. Sorry, because French and German are the predominant languages through Africa, other than English. And so I'm trying to learn these few little things, but I won't be prepared. So ultimately, I'll be resorting to translation apps or guidebooks, or being that guy who speaks in English a little bit and points at things.
Maybe I'm completely ignorant, but German in Africa, which countries?
So there's a couple of Dutch colonies, German areas within. I don't know. I've got them written down because I was told about it. I was surprised about German countries, and then predominantly French over around the west coast.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's one or two German area speaking countries, which I thought, right, I've got to head to those because I might be able to say hello and order a drink. They're probably right in the centre now in my luck, aren't they? You know where I'm not going. Predominantly
just fine.
French, and I don't speak much French whatsoever. Bearing in mind the country's only 30 miles from England, and I don't
Yeah.
speak it really whatsoever. So I'm trying. I don't want to be that person.
What about you, Jimmy? What are your plans for this year?
Well, I'm actually this is where what we talked about earlier on about us going two separate paths a little bit for a little while. I'm about to leave the country. I'm moving to the UAE for a little bit. So I've got a new job out there. I'm going to be working out there for a little while. So I'm actually going to be enjoying some of the sand dunes and trying to ride deserts and things like that and learn that side, because that's a very very different environment to the one that we're used to. We're used to predominantly rain and wind, and I don't think they get much rain out in the UAE, so it'd be slightly different. So that's equally scary, but very different. Trying to figure out solo riding, because I don't have. So my biggest fears are probably different to what Mark's are. I don't have much mechanical knowledge, but I want to ride out into deserts and camp under the stars and kind of do that. And if I break down out there, well, I kind of need to know the very basics. So mine is probably learning how to use a spanner. It's probably going to be one of my top priorities to figure out.
Is that a temporary assignment, or you're moving there indefinitely?
No, it's basically a fairly short contract. I'm going to go out there for a little while, do a little bit of work for probably a couple of years, I suppose, and then be back. That's the plan. Um, and so it's for both of us. It's kind of going to be a different way of operating, but it does open up a lot of options. It means that I'll be a short hop to places like India. So I want to go and explore a bit of India, and we'll start to put some of that sort of stuff on the channel. But also places like Oman and Saudi Arabia potentially. There's quite a few different options that we'll be able to put onto the channel and explore, which is very different. We actually spoke about this quite a lot, Mark and I, because we wondered what people wanted from our channel, and we predominantly tried to make it accessible. It's things that anybody can do, but then we forget that people watch it from all over the world, so not anybody can go to the Peak District, not anybody can go to Wales, especially not if you're over in India. Well, we have some people that watch from India, obviously. So the idea of accessible and anybody can do it is basically a case of, like you were saying earlier on, you go and get a bike and you head down the road, and my down the road will just be a different place to what it is now. And so we try to still showcase that anybody can do it. It's ultimately the hardest thing is just getting yourself out the door and strapping on the helmet and boots and giving it a go,
Do you think you're gonna buy a bike there, or rent and fly around?
If it depends what I'm doing. I plan to own a bike while I'm out there, so I'll buy something to go and do some adventures on. It'll hopefully be something relatively lightweight again. That's the plan. But if I want to do any travel in India, I'll fly across and I'll rent a bike, and maybe be able to explore things like the Silk Road and things like that in India, which will be incredible. It's just trying to take as much advantage as I can of the opportunity, really.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then one other thing I know you have planned for this year is the festival. When you Google search lightweight adventures, it actually comes up with the festival. So
Yeah, the Lightweight
what
Adventure
happened?
Festival.
What happened? And what was this about? And tell us something about it.
Well, the Lightweight Adventure Festival was an accident, wasn't it?
It
Because
really was.
we were riding up through France on our search for the sand, and we were chatting over our intercoms at the time. And we'd gone quiet. It was one of these periods, to go full circle, where we'd gone quiet. We're thinking, dreaming about what the years and months might bring. And I said, mate, wouldn't it be cool to try and get a group of us together on a campsite when we get back to UK this summer? And I was thinking 10, 15, maybe 20. And we decided that if we get 20 people, we would class that as a success for whatever that mattered.
And I said it was a
So,
stupid idea, and I didn't
yeah,
want
you
anything to
hated
do
it,
with it.
didn't you?
I said, no, mate, it's going to be rubbish. Why would we want to do that?
So when Jamie doesn't agree with something, because over the headset he just goes, yeah, mate. And that was it. Because normally we bounce off each other. So I was like, oh, he's not buying this. That's fine. We got back, and I thought I'll just put a little notice out on the social media. Oops. And before you know it, we had like 50 people saying, oh, I'd be bang up for that, yeah. Oh, wow. So like 50 people. So you started phoning around campsites in the UK.
And that was difficult in itself. So I spoke to a number of campsites, and we thought, well, 50 people have said that they will do it, so let's work off, say, 30 people actually turning up. And I spoke to campsites and was trying to book slots for 30 campers, and they were all very happy with the idea, up until the point that I said they were all going to be motorbikers with a bike and a tent, and they didn't want any dirty motorbikers on their campsite. So I got told no by every campsite that I rang, unfortunately, for trying to book a big group. And I was trying to say to them, we just want an area where we keep ourselves to ourselves. We'll go out for a ride and we'll sit in the evening, drink a few beers and have a chat. But they didn't like that idea. So we've realised that we're quickly going to have to hire a bit of space, so a field. effectively. So we started researching fields, didn't we?
Hmm.
But fields come in quite expensive. So it was several £1,000s to hire a field.
And once
And
you've
as
got a
soon as
field,
you,
you need toilets. And if you've got toilets, you need something to drink and something to eat. And before you know it, we'd started having, out of necessity, to bring all these bits in and some shelter because there's no shelter. And well, if we've got shelter, what we're going to do with the guys in the evening because there's no pub to go to, we'll have to put a band on. And it literally was just a thought process of, well, I suppose we have to. And before you knew it, oh, this is a bike rally. And so we quickly hustled together a website and said, well, if you want to come along, just cover our costs. And we capped it at 150, thinking no chance, and it sold out. Done. 150. Wow. And we had the best weather ever. It was too hot. It was genuinely too hot. I was like, this is the best weekend ever.
yeah,
So
it's
we,
brilliant,
so,
wasn't it?
so we vowed to do it again. And so we came back the next year and we had the most atrocious weather. We had
It's
this
awful.
Hurricane Harold or whichever it was come through the UK. It was atrocious.
But the
But
people that came to the festival braved it, and the ones that stuck out actually had a great time. And I think that's something to kind of put a nod towards bikers that will, because there's a lot of other events cancelled for that weekend, but the people that came along, they dug in and they had a fantastic time because they were all forced to talk to each other in the tents
and,
in the horrible weather.
and as they were leaving, they all said to us, if it wasn't for the weather, it wouldn't have been as good, which we found absolutely astonishing because it bonded everybody together. And we'd close to tripled numbers. So at that point, we had 350 attendees. I think it was 400 at any one site. So we're going for it again this year. And we've changed site because in case it's wet, we hope it's not, but in case it is, and we've got a bit of cover in case. And we'll see how many people want to come along this year because it's something like the Lightweight Adventure Festival doesn't exist elsewhere in that it's a community drive. It's not designed to maximize this manufacturer's sales or this exhibitor's. It can do that, but the main driver is community. Getting like-minded people together. And if you hit that one on the head, then all of a sudden the rest of it falls out. You don't have to drive the rest of it. So yeah, we're beyond excited for it yet again. It's in its third year, and as long as we're excited about it, the longest we'll keep on doing it.
What's the aim of it? Is it just a get together with other bikers, or is there some programs, some maybe speakers, some topics, a ride? What do you do?
Yeah, so we're doing it a slight bit different this year. We've got a 3-prong approach where there's one of it is just a community get together. That's one theme of it. You can come and have a beer with your mates, fingers crossed in the sun. See a load of nice bikes, just chill out for the weekend with like-minded people. So that's one. 2, we've got some incredible speakers. We've got world speakers, Dakar racers, people who have traveled around the world on mopeds. Have you ever heard of a guy called Austin Vince?
No.
Austin Vince, back in the mid 90s and mid and late 90s, went around the world as part of the Mondial Enduro and Terra Circa programs. And they filmed it before Charlie and Ewan sort of brought it to the mainstay. They'd done it and filmed it, and you can buy their DVDs. I've got them somewhere here. Austin Vince is a very revered lightweight traveller. And he's coming along. And if you've never seen Austin, wow, please Google him, please follow him. He's an older guy now, but he has not lost an ounce of his energy. He's just the best. Dakar racers like Lel Pavey. We've got all these people coming along to inspire and excite you. And then thirdly, we've got the School of Adventure, where finally we get to actively show you, if you're not comfortable with it, how to do this, how to stay safe, how to stay comfortable, how to make it efficiently, and how to enjoy your adventure. So if you've never done it, now you don't have to go on YouTube, get that bad advice. You don't have to go out straight away and book into a weekend of technical riding. You can book onto our weekend and have small taster sessions of all of it. Great. And then if you want to follow up with the person, great, you can, but you don't have to.
And we're bringing in people from all different backgrounds for that as well. They're all sort of credible professionals in their own right who either run schools or various other things, run events or whatever. And like Mark was saying, you'll book onto these little mini courses. Ultimately, they'll be small, sort of really kind of intimate courses of between 10 and 15 people. Sit around for an hour, talk around a subject. Maybe it's changing a tire, maybe it's cooking off the back of a camping stove, maybe it's foraging. Don't know really. It could be any level of things. You spend sort of 45 minutes to an hour with this person and these other half a dozen to a dozen people. And then, yeah, like Mark says, if you then want to follow it up with a weekend's training or a mechanics course or whatever it might be, you've got the very basics from the School of Adventure, and we're really excited about that. That's brand new, isn't it, for this year?
That's brand new. It's all included in the ticket price, so you're not expected to come along and lay out a further £150 or euros book on. That's not the point of it. The point is so you can come along to Lightweight Adventure Festival and go away, even if you didn't follow up with anything, feeling so much more confident, educated, inspired, excited. Great. Right, go out and do your own research or book with somebody else that's not attached to us. Great. Go out and do it. Your life has been enriched by it, we hope. So that's the
And then in the evening, have a bit of a party.
Yeah.
That's the idea. Got some good music in the evening, some really good drinks that are being served by local breweries, and everyone hopefully have a good party in the evening and sort of just enjoy each other's company and have a bit of a laugh. Put a smile on people's face.
And I've heard the Czech Republic isn't too far a ride to come over for the Lightweight Adventure Festival. I think you could make that in, looking at my map, maybe 3 days. What a great week away that would be.
That'd be great, especially with a complimentary ticket.
Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing? It is mid-July, 12th to the 14th of July.
12th to the 14th of July, I believe I will be in Romania for a road book.
It's not too far from Romania either, Dalibor. I'm just looking at
But it's an amazing thing you're doing. Really impressive. And I think it's good for the community, because with adventure biking and overall motorcycles being more and more popular these days, there's so much space for improvement. And so many people are just, they want to ride confidently. They want to do more. They want to explore. They want to live that adventure life like you guys do. But they just don't have the confidence to step out of their comfort zone. So a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help can go a long way. And I think you're doing a really great thing.
Oh, thanks, man. That's really appreciated. And we completely agree with that. We had year one, we had two guys that came to the festival and they met at the festival. They had a few beers and a bit of a sort of weekend of laughter. And we thought nothing of it. That happened with quite a lot of people at the must have been about 9 months later, something like that. We got a message, and they were both up in the Arctic Circle together. They decided to go out on a trip, rode to the Arctic Circle, sent us a photo of them up at Nordkap, and said, "Thanks, guys. We wouldn't have done it without meeting up at the festival." And that really is the point. That's almost the whole point of the festival, is bringing these people together. Sort of meeting like-minded people, meeting other people that are part of our strange little motorbike family, really, and it's quite nice.
Yeah, it's very nice.
That's really amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, lightweightadventurers.co.uk. It's £99, which we hope is one of the most affordable tickets in the UK, actually. Yeah, we have tried to keep that price as low down as possible. So sorry for the plug.
No, absolutely. That's absolutely fine. I wanted to ask about your racing experience. So you were racing road bikes. My channel is primarily about rally racing as well as traveling. Don't you miss this in your life? You raced bikes a while back. Now you're in the off-road. Have you considered maybe entering any competitions on a lighter bike or doing a road book rally?
It's an interesting question, and something Jamie and I have spoken about probably too many times, because surprisingly, no is the answer, for me at least, because but Jamie takes a very different view. Me, when I used to race, I'm a relatively relaxed road rider until I put on my visor and somebody challenges me, and then I'm an idiot. I go back into this race mode and I just go, "You're not getting away with that. I'm going to have you." And I switch back into that, and it excites me. And so, would I go along and do a road book rally, non-competitive? No, that doesn't interest me. I don't think I would just happily go ride the lanes. Would I do one competitive? Yes, but then I know I'd ride beyond my skill set, and I'd end up hurting myself. So there's a double whammy non-appeal. But I know Jamie takes a bit of a different style on it, don't you, mate?
Yeah, yeah. To answer your question, yeah, it does appeal. And a few times I've looked at it and looked at the rallies, and I think I will get involved at some point with. I would love to go and do something like Dakar one day. I think that'd be incredible, but not so much. It's not for the racing side. I almost wouldn't care where I came, where I finished. For me, it's almost a personal challenge. I'm racing against myself, really. So I would go along it because I want to experience the rally, experience the race, and try and use roadbook. It looks like the most complicated way of navigating ever, but many people seem to do it and say that it's quite simple once you understand it. I would like to go and do it. Yeah, I would like to give it a go. Um, if for no other reason than the fact that it scares me to do it, and I would find it a little bit of something to overcome. You know, another one of those trying to overcome your fears. If for no other reason than that, I will give it a go at some point in the future, and I don't know when that will be exactly.
Interestingly, building on that, if I was to do a competitive one and I'd paid my money and I wasn't riding my own bike, but I was racing to be competitive, even if I wasn't competitive, I'd do that. I know I'd ride beyond my skill set because I'm not well practiced in it, and I'd end up breaking something. But that excites me. So the thought of doing a competitive one, probably not on my own bike and therefore paying the consequence, that excites me. But it'd be that competition again.
But that's completely feasible to rent a bike and do your navigation rally like that. So
Yeah, I have heard that,
I
actually.
completely encourage you to do that because rally navigation is just like this one big puzzle that you have to solve on your own to get from point A to point B. And I interviewed Felix from the Dynamic Rally a while back, and he said that there isn't a single person in the world that tried the roadbook rally and said they did like it. So I encourage you guys to try it, whether competitive or not. Just navigation through the roadbook is entertaining. It's like, it's something completely different, and I enjoy it. I think you might as well. So give it a go.
It's probably one of those things that I try it and go, wow, everybody else was wrong. This is brilliant. God, everybody should be doing this. It's probably one of those things, isn't it?
Could be. All right, guys. I had so many technical questions, but I think there is no place for those anymore, or they are redundant. I had such a good time talking to you guys.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you
for coming in.
Yeah, it's been a great chat. Thank you for having us on, and maybe we'll come back another day to try and answer some technical questions.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you sometime live. And Mark, to you, good luck in your travel. Jamie, to you, good luck in your assignment in the UAE. And see you. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks, buddy.
you, man. Bye-bye.